Gotta get all straightened up here, take off the glasses now. Good morning. Hey, welcome to week number 3 of painting on our sheet. I'm Stephanie Weaver, fine art artist, coming to you live from my home studio. And if you're new here, go ahead and click subscribe so you don't miss a single week of this painting and paintings to come. And if you're coming back, see, I told you it's live. I'm not editing out any of that nonsense that I just kind of spewed out right there. So anyway, if you're coming back again, yes, this is live. Yes, this is real. I'm going to screw up. Life happens. I'm human. So go ahead and share this video with your friends, and I'm going to cue the intro while you share this video. Alright, welcome back. Hello. So, like I said, we are going to paint on our 3rd week of these sheep. And I know I've got a couple guys that are sending me pictures of what you're working on, and that is fabulous. I can't wait to see what you're painting and what you're working on. So send those to me. I want to see. I'm Stephanie at artforpaws.com. That's Stephanie at artforpaws.com. Why Art for Paws? Because I share 10% of everything that I make to nonprofit animal welfare organizations. So that said, we are going to continue to paint on this thing. Now, one of the things that I really like that I'm doing a little bit different than other artists who are showing videos on how to paint things online is that I am actually showing you like week by week, because here's the thing about oil painting. Oil painting takes time. And it takes time to build up layers. Now there is a method like the Bob Ross, what he taught and all that, which is called wet on wet, and the proper term is alla prima, which means all at once. There is that method, and there's anything wrong with that. That's totally fine. The method that I'm teaching here today over the last couple weeks, and probably another couple weeks moving forward, is the old master's way, one of the old master's way, which is applying layer upon layer upon layer. So in the first week, what we did was we just basically covered the whole panel. And this is a 16 by 20 panel with a layered paint just effectively blocking in the colors. So blocking in those medium to dark tones. And then the way I started is I moved from backward and came forward, right? So the second week, I only painted maybe like an hour and a half on it. And this is like, it's live, it's real time and all that. I only painted about an hour and a half on it, and I worked in my trees in the background, added another layer, just kind of another little layer of depth. The more layers you have, the greater the depth, and essentially the more realistic that it's going to come. So it takes patience, right? So if you haven't painted before, I want that to be in the back of your mind, is that patience is key here. And if you don't think that you have patience, I would challenge you that, yeah, you do, because here's what happens. When you start painting, your mind shifts into a part of the brain that is more relaxed. It's an inward event. And so because you're moving inward, you lose all concept of time. You lose concept of patience. Patience is no longer a thing. The patience is something that you're dealing with outward when you're working with somebody or trying to do something with somebody. That's the level of patience. That's a whole different thing. That is wholly different. When we're painting, your mind shifts and you become calm. And when you watch me throughout this episode or even past episodes, you're gonna see me shift. Like right now, I am high energy. I am very much type of thing. But as I move into my painting, you will see me, literally see me shift. You'll hear me shift. My voice gets quieter. I get calmer. You don't see that I've had like 5 cups of coffee. So it's something that totally shifts, and that happens with you too. The other thing that I will also say is that I hear a lot of people say, I can't draw a straight line. So nobody's asking you to draw a straight line. There are tools for that, and it's called a ruler. If you need a ruler, grab it. Whatever tools that you need to help you through the process is the tools that you're going to get. So I like the idea of, the person putting on the roof, right? Are they going to use a hammer or a nail gun? They're going to use that nail gun to get them faster. So get whatever tool that you need to get to the result that you want faster, right? So I actually have a video about that, and it's called 6 Methods to Drawing so you can get to get to painting faster. It's a whole bunch of 6 tools that are at your disposal anytime. And guess what? I'm going to show you how to use ruler. Not really, but there is a ruler involved. So anyway, don't let things hold you back. I went live this morning on my Facebook. It's called Art Insiders group. I encourage you guys to go over to facebook.com/ I think it's Art Insiders or Art for Balls. I'll put a link in here. You can go to it later. Anyway, go to the Facebook group. And I went live this morning because there's this fear. There's all sorts of fear kind of going on right now, and because of all the pandemic and all this other stuff. Well, that in itself hasn't bothered me at all, because here's the thing with how I perceive these things. You know, it's like, I even came up with an acronym, FFMF. You know, F fear, move forward. And that even goes to everything that I'm doing right here. I have let fear hold me back for months, and about going live on YouTube, because I'm like, you know, a little bit worried about what people are going to say, what are they going to think, what are they going to do, you know, everybody's going to hate this, da 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 da. All those negative fear points that are just lies, false assumed truths, fat. It's fat in your brain, fear. So I said, F fear, move forward. And so here we are at week 8. I've been coming to you every week live on YouTube and removing that fear. So I want you, if you have never painted before, to say F fear, move forward, and get to your painting. If you're here, you have something that's been driving you to paint. Get started, okay? And I'm here to help you with that. Okay, enough preaching, so to speak. What we're gonna do today is we are gonna work on our sheep over here. And so as you can see, I've got my panel all set up. You can say hi to me, I'm down here. And then I also have my palette set up down here. So you can see everything that I'm working on and everything that I'll be doing. I am using my standard palette. If you're unsure what my standard palette is, I'll run through that real quick, but there's also a reference in the comment in the description area where you can click on a link and it'll bring you to a resource that shows everything that I recommend. Okay, so let's go down to our palette real quick. I'm going to go ahead and run through those colors. All right, so here we've got our black. Now I don't care what black you use. You can Mars black, lamp black, ivory black, don't care. Okay, so you got your Mars black, ultramarine blue, a must-have. You gotta have that. Ultramarine blue, right? Cobalt blue, sap green. Sap green is an excellent shortcut to creating grass and trees and all that good stuff. Sap green, okay. Alizarin crimson, burnt umber, and I need to get a new little pile of that. Burnt umber and burnt sienna dry really fast, so like I just put this little module out maybe yesterday, the day before, and it's already dry. And even though I stuck it in the freezer, so it's still dry. But anyway, so you've got your burnt umber, burnt sienna, cadmium orange medium, yellow ochre, and yellow medium, cadmium yellow medium. So, and then I'll have down here my titanium white. As far as products, I really recommend Gamblin products, and they don't pay me to say that, but I recommend Gamblin products because one, they're made here in the US, they're ethically sourced. Like cobalt, they don't go to the mines of Africa or whatever to get child labor cobalt. No, they're ethically sourced, so I appreciate that. And then I use their Gamsol because it's odorless and non-toxic. So if you're using turpentine right now, stop it. So get Gamsol. It's odorless, non-toxic, and you can feel comfortable painting with that from the comfort of your home without, killing every plant around it. I don't know if it actually kills plants, but anyway, stop using turpentine. Okay, so I've got my standard palette set up here. I've also got a little bit of Neo Gilt. If you are unfamiliar with Neo Gilt, it is in old world terms was referred to as liquid glass. This is the essence to create glazing, so you must have this. Love this stuff. You can create it. but why do that when you can just buy it? So it's easy. It's another gambling product, Neoma Gilp. So I've got my little pile of Neoma Gilp there, and you'll also notice that my palette is a colorful mess. So I'm going to clean up my palette a little bit, and I don't think you guys have seen me do this before, so I wanted to show you that this morning. So this is a tempered glass, and I have this little razor blade thing that I got at like Walmart for like $1 something. And so it's got this little razor blade. You replace the razor blades, and you just scrape off your paint. So I have painted on several other paintings since the last time we met, and that's where all this paint kind of came from. And I tried to reserve some of the paints that I already created, and I'm going to keep this little pile of purple because it's just pretty, and I might find a way to put that into my painting. So I'm going to leave that over there. So if you have a pretty color that you would like to implement into your painting, go ahead and get some of that. Use some of your colors that you like. Because, everybody sees color differently. And, your painting is your painting. I'm walking you through the steps and kind of the logic and the techniques behind it. But the color and your brush strokes, those are independent to you. So everybody has a certain number of color, rods and cones in their eyes, and they're all different. Every one of us has something different. And every one of us have a different stroke that we take. So I like to look at paintings like thumbprints and fingerprints. Everybody's is different. And that's what makes it so unique. And that's why I just love seeing everybody's paintings that come from these tutorials. Because it's just fascinating to me. Okay, so I'm almost done scraping up. Okay. And if there's some residue on there that bothers you, what you can do is take some paper towel. And I just take a little bit of this and dip it in my Gamsol. Now Gamsol is actually mineral spirits, so it's not going to hurt your hands or anything. But I'll just like kind of wipe it off just a little bit. Get my mixing area nice and clean. My whole table's shaking. Okay, just like that. Awesome. Okay. Alright, so now we've got our paints laid out and we've kind of talked through a little bit about that. Let's talk about intention. So this is when my brain really starts to shift and starts thinking about moving into my painting. And so when I'm thinking about my painting and thinking about my intention for the day, I just kind of get into it. And what draws your eye? Where do you want the viewer's eye to go? And that's where my attention and intention goes for that day. So I know today I don't want to mess with the trees in the background. We did that last week, and right now they're very fuzzy because they're out of focus. They don't have our attention. We don't want the attention to be there, right? We want the attention to be on this nice little family of sheep. And for me, I'll bring up the reference image here. So in the reference image, remember from week 1, I did remove like a sheep over here, and there's another sheep over here. And I just kind of simplified it down by removing some of the sheep. Now I've seen like one lady, she turned this sheep around, the one that's got the sheep butt facing him. So she turned it around and gave it a head and stuff, which is really good. That's really good. So she made it kind of face forward too. So now it looks like a mother and a father kind of standing next to each other. And then you've got like the 2 siblings over here. Love that idea. So when we start with a reference image, it's a reference image. It's yours to modify and put in your own interpretation. That's what's the great thing about this is. One of the many great things. I love art. Okay, so what I did is I simplified it, removed the sheep over here, and the rest I was kind of happy with. I kind of like for me, I like the oddball butt sheep. So I kept him. So my intention for today is I'm going to focus on my sheep. So you're going to see me get into some details. And what those details are then going to help me do is figure out how detailed do I want to get in the rest of the painting. So, okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to stop talking and start painting. All right, you guys ready? Let's do this. All right, I'm going to mix up a couple of colors here first. All right, what I'm going to do is, if you look here, I'm going to probably mix up some of this blue again like we did before. It's got some blue that's reflecting from the sky. And I'm going to mix up some of the dark that's over here. And then I'm going to build from there, and probably like the dirt color too. All right. Okay, so because they're up close, I'm going to choose cobalt blue as my blue to work with. Anything that I want to put in shade or into the distance, I'm going to use ultramarine blue, but to bring it into the warm and the front, I'm going to use cobalt blue. Okay, so grab some cobalt blue. And okay, let's mix those couples first. Okay, that's a pretty intense blue, very, very pretty. But what I found with nature is that many times, the color intensity is brought down a little bit. So I'm going to bring this down just a touch. I'm going to grab a little bit of the burnt umber. I'm going to pull some of this off to the side and mix it with the burnt umber. See how much calmer that blue got now? That's nice. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and make the brown. I'm going to make some of this brown that I see in here, the darker brown. So I didn't clean off my brush that time, or my palette knife, just because I want some of that blue kind of pulled in to muddy up the brown just a little bit. Now another thing, I paint thinly. I do it the way you go from fat over thin. So you paint many thin layers and then lay the thickest layer on top. Fat is actually referring to the linseed oil that is in the paint, or the medium that you're putting into the paint. So I paint very thin until it's the last layer. That's nice. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and create another little pile with the burnt sienna, which is kind of like the mud that I see under there. I'm gonna grab some cobalt blue. So that's burnt sienna and cobalt blue. What that's doing is putting a little bit warmer of a mud color. There we go. Like that. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to get into the sheet. Okay. Here we go. I'll break up my bristles. Now, if you paint every day or frequently, like where your bristles aren't going to require washing every day, like I paint almost every day, and so sometimes I don't want to wash my brushes every night, which is not exactly recommended. But I will put linseed oil actually on my brushes so that I don't have to wash them every day. It's a nice little trick. I'm going to start in the darks first. And I'm going to start, I'm adding some ultramarine blue to this because I want it to really cool down and be put in shadow. Alright, I'm going to put this up here. Whoop. Or maybe not. I'll put it down here. When you purchase the class, there is always like the slider that's on here that goes away. My colors that I use, they pop up, and then the reference image is always up here as well. But that's when it's professionally edited. so the box is kind of in the way. I'm going to move this down. There you go. And I had some, I'm going to grab some of the burnt sienna here. I'll pull it off the side because I want to see that's happening behind the sheep. It's like the sun is kind of shining through right here. And I like that. I want to kind of capture that. Now I'll also say, I am a fast painter. So, and that came with like 20 years of doing this. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause it and kind of catch up. In the paid for version of this, which is available on paintonthepalette.com, you will receive this class actually broken down into smaller segments so you can address things in a small segment. You watch it, paint it, and move forward. That's why I push the tagline, learn, paint, repeat. So you can learn it, paint it, repeat it. And that color I didn't exactly see in the painting, but like I said, or in my reference photo image, but I like it. So I'm adding it. Oh, let's see. I'm reading my comments up here. What's to say? Okay, cool. Hey, Karen. Hey, Rachel. Hey, awesome. Okay, I'm going to move into some of my lighter areas. I want to cool that down just a little bit with some of my ultramarine blue. Purple that one up just a little bit, adding some alizarin crimson. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put some of the highlights on him, just so I'm going to put some highlights on him, just kind of so I could see like the overall picture of kind of what's the highlights and lowlights and all that. And start kind of building the whole picture of the sheep. what I do is I actually do a lot of blending. I reserve the last layer to add in those really big pops of color, so that that's where my fat, you know, the thickness comes. But I like to blend and get subtle differences between the highlight and the dark. All right, let's see. He has got a weird butt. Whatever's going on with that back end is like weird. And I think I see the problem. All right. Yeah, okay, I think I got it. So what's happening is I'm trying to distinguish like this leg right here, and what he's actually got going on is he's got like this, I don't know, probably his junk, you know what I mean, kind of coming out there. And it just looks weird. Okay. Okay, so I need to darken that up. Okay, that's looking a little better. Still got a really big rear end. So I stand back a lot. I actually stand up paint. I have paint standing up so I can back away from everything quite a bit. Yeah, okay. So I can kind of get the bigger picture of what's going on. In my head, I keep thinking, does this make my butt look big? Yes, it does make your butt look big. So I gotta figure out how to make his butt look smaller. Least in proportion, you know what I mean? Okay. Does this make my butt look big? I'm gonna do a little bit of black just to really push that down right in there. Okay, now he's starting to make a little bit more sense. That's good, that's good. Okay. So if you haven't noticed, yes, my mind has shifted. I have gotten calmer. So that's nice. I find it helpful to have your reference image very close to you so you can kind of go back and forth and look at the values and all that. Okay, I'm just going to get a little bit smaller brush. So I'm starting to really kind of get into that sheep and think about some of the details that are going in here. I want to darken up some areas. Right here. If you need the reference photo, there's a link in the description. Just click on that link and you'll go through like an email and it'll download after, a website and it'll download after that point. Just follow the instructions. Or you can go to paintonthepalette.com and sign up for the class, and it's in one of the segments there. Because the back is dry, I can come in here and actually lay my hand on it and get a little bit more into the details. So he's got some hair, that is afro hair, you know, hopefully that's okay to say. He's got like poofy hair coming up right here. So I want to show the depth of that hair. Now, I'm actually going to shift to using a lot more Neoma Gilt. So what the Neoma Gilt is going to do, like I said before, is called liquid, old masters called it liquid glass. So what it does is it allows you to apply paint very thinly on top of a previous layer, and that allows the paint to actually shine through from the previous layer. Therefore, if you add a lot of details from the previous layer, you're just getting to add more details and you're not losing the details that you had in the previous layer. So it's pretty cool. So that's why it's called liquid glass. So I'm going to start using some of my liquid glass because what I want to happen is the fur is very complex, right? There's multiple layers. There's little curly cues kind of coming out of the sheep's fur. So I want to be able to see the level of depth in the fur so it becomes more fluffy. And in my mind, with the use of liquid glass, Neoma Gilt, I can create those additional layers, and that'll, you know, create the illusion that my flat surface here is coming live with the sheep. So I'm going to take a second, and I'm actually going to grab my chair and sit down. So I don't always stand up. I do sit down, especially when I'm about to get into something that's fairly detail oriented, and I've got my glasses. And I just want to make sure that I take my time, because when I stand up, that's usually when I'm kind of moving quickly and yeah, I'm moving quickly and it's just very focused on getting the paint on there. Now I'm focused on getting it right. You know what I mean? Okay. All right, so here we go. All right, about to get into his face. There we go. All right. Nice thing about iPads or whatever tablet that you might have, you can really zoom in and see what you're about to paint. I know there are some artists that really just prefer to, you know, the impressionistic style, and I think that's great. I love the impressionistic style. Me, I have to start with realistic and before I can move to impressionistic. And right now, this is probably as impressionistic as this painting's gonna get for me. Now I'm gonna get a little bit more realistic. Okay, here we go. And I'm about to put up my hair too, because my hair is all in my face, and I don't like hair in my face when I paint. So let's stop and just take a second, make sure that my measurements are correct. So if I look at his ear, it's about that distance. So to from ear to one hump of his eye, another to another. So if we look here, ear, so his hump should be there, and then he's got another one, another one. So we're just making sure that the measurements are correct. Went with the darks of his face first. Grab a little bit of the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna. I'm going to mix some of that into his ear. Right here. Alright, so his ear is kind of wonky right here. So what I need to do is define that. And I can see in my reference image there's a lot more highlight going from here and out. Okay. And I'm going to create those subtle transitions in between. Got a little bit of my blue mix right here. This is another reason why I start, like, if you notice I'm putting my hand on the painting, dog's barking. If you notice I'm putting my hand on my painting, I think whenever I knock on my canvas, they think I'm, like, the door's knocking, and so they're starting to bark. So if you can say hi. Okay, so anyway, I won't knock on my painting again. But when I put my hand on here, I'm starting from left and moving right because I'm right-handed. So that's one of the reasons why I do this. The barking will be edited out as a professionally edited video as well. So, yay! So if you're joining me live for the first time, go ahead and click the the subscribe button so you don't miss this again. Okay? All right. I'm going to take some of my titanium white here, and I'm just adding a little bit of Neo McGill to it so it moves a little bit better. I'm not wanting thick paint just yet, but I'm going to go back in and add in a little bit of the highlights that I see. So that way, you know, I'm seeing the highlights, I can get an idea of the highlight versus mid-tone versus a dark, and that'll help me kind of hone in and tune up the midtones and darks too. Okay. One of the things I see here is that I need to also come in here. I'm going to fix the sheet where this, I'm going to bring green over to this little segment right here because I made his, you know, back neck just a little bit too big. So I'm going to fix that a little bit. one of the things I'm kind of doing here is I'm just squiggling a little bit. Just kind of squiggling my brush to where I'm starting in the highlight and squiggling it down just a little bit. So it's starting from the light and then it's picking up some of the paint that's already there and still wet. Like I said before, I am a fast painter, so if you are new and it's taking you some time to do this, don't sweat it. Grab a product that's a slow drying medium that you can add to your paint, and then that way the paint that you're still working on can still be manipulated even if you're working on the sheet like tomorrow. Okay, all right, so don't sweat it too much. One of the many beauties of oil paints is that you can manipulate it using mediums to dry at the rate that you want it to. And for those of you that are also joining, what we're working on this week is just the sheep. I'm not touching the background again because I want to focus on the sheep, get in some of those details, and then go back to the background to see what I need to modify. And I can already tell you one of the things I want to do back there, which is I want more vibrancy. Right now it's very kind of dull to me. So I'm going to fix that later. So maybe I want to add in a little bit more dark. And if I add more dark in, I'm going to start from the bottom and pull up. So that way the dark paint is going to start down at the bottom. Clean off my brush just a tiny bit. Okay. If I want to start with the dark, I'm going to grab some of the darker color. And I'm adding ultramarine blue to it. And then I can kind of start down at the bottom and work my way up towards the light. And notice I'm pretending like I've got really, really shaky hands. I've got a lot of caffeine or something. And what I'm doing is I'm just starting at the bottom and I'm thinking that I really don't want a lot of regular lines. I don't want straight lines. So I'm just squiggling it up, and that's picking up some of the paint that's already there and just gently blending it up. So it's creating that movement in the sheep's wool. The thing that kind of helps with being able to be a little bit shaky is if you hold the paintbrush far away, and you can go as far as you want, but I'm sitting. If I were standing up, I would be holding it out at a distance like this, and that way, I mean, it's just a slight movement of your fingers to get it to wiggle like that. Add little touches of dark every so often where their wool gets really deep. And I just notice those deep pockets of dark. The wool, I must say, is probably the easiest part of this, and that's what really distinguishes him from the look of a cow versus a sheep. So that's what I'm working on right now, making sure he doesn't look like a cow. I'm not going to put too much detail around here because we still have a lot of the grass to work on. So I'm just kind of giving a little bit of indications of color. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move to this little sheep right here and let all this paint kind of rest. Again, starting from my dark. Finding the shape of his face. And again, if you're wanting to paint this, click on the link. You'll get the reference image sent to your email. Otherwise, sit back, relax, have a cup of coffee, and see what happens. Okay, I know this right here, it's a ear, so you can kind of see a little ear right there. And while I'm not really concerned that you're able to see every single detail in there, I do want to make sure that everybody knows it's an ear, because otherwise it's like, what, has he got another eyeball inside his head? You know, so it's an ear. I'm gonna keep that a little bit darker in the center of his ear. It's not quite as dark as his eye, so I'm going to have to darken up the eye a little bit. Okay, go ahead and get that eye in there. The thing I'm noticing is that the top of his forehead is just a little bit darker. And he's got nose kind of going on down here. You can't really tell that it's a nose, but you know it's a nose. So just kind of give a little bit of an indication that what it is. Okay. Alright, I'm going to use another brush. Just kind of blend, it's dry. I'm going to use a dry little brush. Just kind of blend in and soften some of the edges that are going on from the transition from light to dark. And this needs to come down a little bit. There we go. Flatten the top of the head just a tiny bit. Okay. Okay. We'll go back and transition. There we go. Good. Okay. Keep on defining my darks around this little guy. So eventually his ear is going to look more like an ear because everything else around that ear is a little bit dark, right? Okay. That's better. Okay. Since I'm still sitting down, I'm going to focus a little bit more on his face and kind of blending that in, and just kind of defining that. And then I might stand up again. Top of his ear kind of comes up here. All the way to, see a little bit of it. Oh, too thick. Right here. Okay. I've got his eye just a little bit too big. All right. Okay. Grab some of the muddy mixture and work where I see some of that coming into play. I also see little hints of green, like the grass is reflecting off of his fur or wool. So I'm going to grab some of the sap green, mix it in a little bit with the brown color here, and I'm going to put some of that right in here. Because that's what I see. If you don't see that, don't do that. You just do what you see. I'm just going to grab a little bit bigger of a brush. Grab some of my gilt, mix it in with my blue here. And I'm gonna start working a little bit bigger strokes and then refine it. Okay, I'm going to go in some of the lighter color and start doing the same thing that I did before, where I'm just starting in the light and kind of pulling it down into the medium and dark tones. And then I'm going to do the opposite, start from dark, move it back up. Okay. Starting with the highlights that I see. A nice strong highlight right here. And that is going to be the same value as everything that's going to be on top. So I need to keep that in mind. It's the same value. It's like the highest point that's reaching the sun at that. And same with all this on the other sheet. It needs to all be the same value. And start squiggling some of that down. Okay. Grab a little bit of the dark color now, and I'm going to start from the bottom and squiggle up. Just grab a little bit of the black and ultramarine blue, and I'm going to add it to this blue brown mixture. And start from the bottom, where it should be the darkest, and squiggle up. You can hear my husband on his conference call downstairs. Sorry, it's quarantine time. That'll be edited out. And a professionally edited video. He's so loud. I even tried to give him a headset. He just did it. Like that sounds like. Well, fine. Okay, this little sheep has some dark spots in it. Little spots. I want to add those in. Okay, right now it looks a little too spotty. I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that. Remember when I talked about patience? Patience. Okay, so this is where we're just kind of going to squiggle in some of the edges of that really dark splattered paint and just gently just kind of bring it down, bring a little bit up, but I'm still leaving a very solid piece of that pigment in the paint. So I can just kind of gently maybe feather this one out if I want. And he's still got the spot, but it's not like, you know, blob on there. I just hear, so Sophie started barking downstairs, and I just heard, you know, Ben complain about Sophie barking. He's, oh, about to do, and I couldn't hear what he actually said, but these dogs barking, and so yeah, he's ready to go back to work, like work in a physical location other than home, you know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like that. I'm just kind of squiggling down a little bit again, softening some of my marks. Oh, he's looking cute. Okay. Not too dissatisfied with what's going on. Yeah. I still haven't like really punched it up with color yet. And so, but we're gonna get there. I might make a little bit of a darker spot right in here. It's not necessarily that dark in the reference image, but I want to really make sure that you can see the lamb face. So I'm kind of darkening that up a little bit. Again, that's a artistic licensing type where you can modify the reference, use the reference, and then modify it to get it to tell the story that you want it to tell. There we go. So this is that other little, this little sheep right here. That's his rear end. And peeking through this other guy's feet over here. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. Ooh, almost. Wow, I'm having a hard time holding on to my paintbrushes. Okay, I'm gonna keep going into this next sheep. Starting with my dark. Into purple. Add a little bit of burnt umber. So do that just a touch. His highlight kind of comes down like that. So he's got the highlight happening up here. Okay, cool. Okay. Kind of blocking in stuff that I see on this round of painting. This one has so much color going on in it. Okay, so that is there we go. Okay. Alright, now that I've got kind of blocked in some of the different colors that I see, I'm going to go ahead and start with some of those highlights again. And then a little bit of a gilt to it. So let's see. Got some highlights coming down in here. I'll fluff those. Just add a little bit of brush strokes. This guy's hair is a little bit different to me. It seems to be more, uh-oh, what happened? Oh no, well that's not good. I don't know what happened. Wonder how long that went on for. Oh, when I dropped my paintbrush. Okay. So, there was a little segment of time. There was a little segment of time when the painting switched. So I'm gonna talk a little bit. I added some other colors down in here to this sheet. Now I'm up here adding some highlights, and I'm gonna take that and just kind of bring it down. And I'm letting my brush strokes make the fur. I'm just kind of shifting in between different values kind of as I see them now. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush and I'm going to kind of start controlling my movements just a little bit more and the brush strokes, and start creating that more wool-like movement. Okay. Trying with the idea of just kind of starting at the top and pulling some of those colors down. What I find interesting about this particular sheep, he looks like he's been brushed, and the other ones don't. So of the things I'm doing back here is I'm actually seeing a lot of purple in my painting, which is kind of nice because like the purple and green, they're on the opposite side of the color wheel. So they're just going to make this sheep just kind of pop all the more, especially once I start putting in some of the grass and the details in the grass and start making that pop. Yeah, he's got a lot of blues and purples. And darken up some of the little spots that I see are a little bit darker to show where the creases of the neck are, and where his body is slightly turned as he's walking towards us. Okay. And I'm just going to soften a little bit some of the edges. Kind of blend it all up and in. Not all of it. Just create a little bit more movement. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to work on his face, and I'll come back to that part of the fur too, I believe. So working on his ears, I'm going to just kind of define those a little bit better. I'm actually grab a little bit of my black and a little bit of the burnt sienna. I'm going to get into the dark of his ear. Work on defining the shape again. It's kind of lost a little bit of that shape. Oops, sorry. There you go. Okay. Gonna get his neck back here too. getting the shape of his face back. So what I did is I just, I see, like here, I see my reference image right there. It's got some hints of gold and a little bit of the green kind of reflecting up from underneath his face there. So I see that, and just kind of bring that over just a little bit. Whoops. Okay, and then so his face kind of comes down. Let's take a look at that. So he's got his face kind of comes down. Got that little cheekbone happening. A little highlight happening. So it's like his head goes, let's see, more at an angle like this. And then he's got shape underneath his eye, on top, and then mouth. So it looks weird right now, but it's building. Okay. And then this side is a little bit more the light too, where he's coming in, he's got the highlight here. And then there's snout. Okay, so I got the shape back. Let's see, this one goes like that. Okay. We've got some dark up here. And a little bit more blue to that. I also see triangle shape of a shadow here. Right above his nose. And then I see more shadow right here. So what I'm trying to do is think in terms of shapes and shadows, not I'm trying to draw a face or paint a face. Look at his cute little ears. Okay. I'll go ahead and get his eyes back in there. So what I'm doing, if I look at my reference image, I can take his ears, the top of his ears, and move down, and the top of his ears, and the top of the eyes, and the top of the nose should be aligned. So when I look at that, so like the top of his ear, let's start with his eyes. Top of the eyes, top of the ear, which should be right here, and right here. Should be aligned. Those two along with the eyes. So top of the eye. So the nose is aligned. The eyes are off. I need to raise this one up just a little bit. Okay. Alright, and his ear needs to come out a little bit. So I'm going to define that right now. So like the ears, this should be coming out. And he's got the highlight here. And this is going up. Like that. Okay, so his ear is slightly off there. And that's another reason why it comes in kind of handy to paint this stuff, like the foreground. You paint the background, middle ground, and foreground. You paint them at different levels. So I'm gonna have to paint the background again. We all kind of knew that, and then I'll get to correct some of the drawing that's coming forward. So yay! There's a method to the madness. Let's go ahead and work on that other ear. That ear was a little bit too big. Okay, so he's actually got a really big highlight coming right here. Let's see. Okay. And soften the transitions around his face. Because I will come back through and add some really just punches of light where I want your eyes to go. And his nose is like a V one way, and then the mouth is like a half moon kind of looking thing right there. And they're connected in the middle. And then you can soften around the edges where it all kind of blends together. Okay, I'm probably gonna stop here for today, but over the next week, I want you to go ahead and finish up your sheet and add as much detail as you would like. Next week, or next session, we'll continue on and adding some more details, refining our sheet, and really getting them to kind of come forward. We're going to address our background again. So, like I said in the beginning of this video, it takes patience, takes time, and that's why oil paintings are so much more expensive than any other painting, because of the time, the level of detail, the level of levels, layers that's in here, and you know, time is money. You get what you pay for, and this will be awesome when you're done. So be patient and keep at it. If you have questions, just pop over to the Facebook, the Art Insiders Facebook group. Post your images and your questions, and I'll be glad to answer. So until next time, you guys stay safe, happy, and healthy, and see you next week.